So one of the song goes thus. Sàngó dé o, orò ọkọ ya o, agbéna gẹ̀ǹgẹ̀ dé lọ́nà oko. Sàngó dé o, orò ọkọ ya o, agbéna gẹ̀ǹgẹ̀ dé lọ́nà oko. Sàngó bàbá wa, Sàngó bàbá wa. Sàngó bàbá wa, Sàngó bàbá wa, ọkọ Yádolú o, Sàngó bàbá wa, ọkọ Yádolú o, Sàngó bàbá wa. So, as the story goes on, I'll sing more and more song about him.
Okay.
Let me go into the story now. Shango was the third Aláàfin of Òyó, like I said initially. Ọ̀rànmíyàn, his father, was the first Aláàfin. He was the one who founded Òyó. So after Ọ̀rànmíyàn's Àjàká was asked to assume the throne of his father. So when Àjàká became the king of Òyó, someone who loved war, he was too tender. He was not, as far as the people are concerned, he was not capable enough. He was not fit to be their king because back then there used to be tribal wars. And to be a king, you must be a very vigorous person. You must be ready for war at all times. But left to Àjàká, Àjàká would rather choose peace, which wouldn't work in those days. Now, Olowu happened to be Àjàká's cousin. Olowu was a cousin to Àjàká and Sàngó. Olowu now, at a time, Olowu came to Òyó kingdom and began to he started disturbing them. He started bringing a lot of war into Òyó, which was not meant to be so, because these people were cousins. But he had observed that Àjàká is a weakling and is not capable of launching a war. So he decided to use that advantage at his own gain. So a time came whereby Àjàká, the then Aláàfin of Òyó, was apprehended by Olowu. He was enslaved by Olowu, which shouldn't happen. So the people, the Oyomesis, there are some kingmakers among the chiefs of Oyos, among the chiefs of Oyo called the Oyomesis. They are 7 in number. The Bashorun is the head of the Oyomesis. So they summoned Àjàká's brother, Sàngó, whom we are talking about. They summoned him because he wasn't living in Oyo then, that he should come to their aid. He should come and do whatever he can to retrieve his brother back from Olowu. So Sàngó came. When Sàngó came back home, he went to Owu and he took back his brother, his half-brother, and they came back to Òyó. When they got back to Òyó, the people of Òyó believed that this kind of person, that is Àjàká, the elder brother of Sàngó, cannot be their king anymore because he was too weak to stand the test of time. So they sent Àjàká into exile. He was sent into exile, and Sàngó was crowned as the Aláàfin of Òyó. Yes. Sàngó has 3 wives. Their names are Ọ̀ṣun, Ọba, and Ọya. Ọ̀ṣun is the first wife. Ọba is the second wife, while Ọya is the third wife. But Ọya was Sàngó's favorite because Ọya was also a special being. She could conjure the rain. She could summon the rain at will. So Sàngó himself too was very powerful to the extent that when he talked,
Mm.
He is angry. Fire and smoke comes out of his mouth. Yes, and he even have the power to summon thunder and lightning from heaven. So whenever he goes for war, he doesn't even disturb himself. He will just summon thunder, he will summon the lightning, and history has it that his wife Oya will also summon the rain. So as far as that is going on, in question that is their enemies will be electrocuted.
Mm.
So Shango can win a war without even lifting a sword back then. So Shango love the bata drum. He dances to the bata drum. When you see Shango devotees nowadays, their main drum is the bata drum. That is because Shango himself loved bata drum.
True.
Now, Shango's power began to grow, began to grow, and at a time he became a tyrant. He began to show the traits of terrorism. That is, he has overpowered lots of people to the extent that he can do anything at will. And if he is not caught up, if he could later be the one that will cause the town back then. So in order to call him up, the Oyo Mesis cannot just they can't just talk to Shango anyhow because he was very powerful then. They were looking for ways. There was a time in history that I want to use this part to show how dreadful Shango is. There was a time in history when Shango wanted to know the name of his mother because he never knew the name of his mother. His mother died when he was very little, when he was a baby. So
Mm.
his mother was the daughter of the king of Nokpe, the king of Tapa land, called the Elenkpe of Tapa. That's the king of Tapa
Mm.
land is referred to as the Elenkpe of Tapa land, of the Nokpe land.
Where is the
It's
Takpa
in
now?
Nokpe land, very close to Kogi.
Mm.
So
Mm.
they Shango now summoned one Tetu. The name of the god is Tetu. He summoned Tetu and one non-Yoruba man. Some part of history says that that non-Yoruba man is Hausa. Some says that he's just a non-Yoruba man. He wasn't his tribe wasn't mentioned. So so he summoned Tetu and that non-Yoruba person to go to Tapa land,
Mm.
his mother's lineage, so that they can go and ask what his mother's name was. But in
Okay.
order to ask what his mother's name was,
Mm.
he did not send them to just go there and ask the king that what was Shango's mother's name also. No, he told them to tell the king of Tapa, which is Elenkwe, who happens to be Shango's mother's father, that he should help him appease his mother at his mother's grave. Because
Mm.
in Yoruba land,
Mm.
when parents die,
Mm.
they become a god. Small letter G, they become a god.
God. Mm.
Because they play a major part in
Yeah.
our life.
And those days they used to be serving the gods of our ancestors.
Exactly. So when some back then, when mothers die,
Mm.
they used to appease them every year, just like other gods are appeased.
Mm.
When fathers die, they appease them every year, every year.
Mm.
So Shango said they should go to Takwaland,
Mm.
and by the grave of his mother, when they started praying, when they start appeasing his mother,
Mm.
at a time they must mention his mother's name. So when they mention his mother's name, he told the two guards that he sent that they should try to grab his mother's name.
Mm.
So because Shango was a very important person and he was their son too in Takwa land, they welcomed them with great ecstasy and they gave them a lot of food, they gave them a lot of drink. The non-Yoruba man drank till he got to a state of oblivion. He drank to stupor that he couldn't even remember what he was doing again. But when Tetu remembered that Shango is a very vigorous person, he is a very dreadful person, he drank with manner. So when they were appeasing Shango's mother, it got to a stage when they mentioned the name of his mother and they said his mother's name is Torosi. So that's the tattoo quickly grabbed the name Torosi, 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 and he never wanted to forget. But the non-Yoruba man
Mm.
can't even remember his own name sef. So when they got back to Oyo and Shango asked the non-Yoruba man that what did they call my mother's name? He couldn't remember. But when he asked Tetu, Tetu said, your mother's name is Torosi. Shango was very happy to hear from Torosi that his
Mm.
mother, to hear from Tetu that his mother's name was
Toro.
Torosi. But for the non-Yoruba man, he gave him in fact, a very strict punishment. He called two Onikolas.
Mm.
Two Onikolas means those who makes marks, those who make tribal marks.
Mm.
Shango summoned them and tell them and told the two of them their names were Baba Jegbe Osan and Baba Jegbe Oru. Those are the name of the Onikolas. So he summoned them to make 122 marks, 122 marks on the non-Yoruba man's body, so that he can feel a lot of pain, so that he will know that whenever he sends him on an errand, he must pay adequate attention.
Sure.
But to the greatest surprise, when when this 122 marks healed, before it could heal, the non-Yoruba man couldn't even come out at all.
Mm.
He was in pain, he was in great pain. So he was secluded. By the time he came out, the marks looked very attractive to the
Mm.
to to the wonder of everybody, because everyone was expecting that Shango did that to punish him, and by the time he comes out, his body will not be attractive again. But as at when he will come out, those marks made him much more handsome.
Oh.
Even princesses, those princesses then, they even advised, they went to the extent of advising Shango that it would be better for he himself
Mm.
to
To have
to
that
make
mark.
this mark in his own body. Ah, so as a courageous man, he never want to show himself to be someone who is not powerful again.
Mm.
Now he summoned those Onikolas again to come and make the mark for him. When they made the first mark, they made it from his shoulder here
Mm.
to his arms here.
Mm.
Hmm, he couldn't withstand the pain.
Mm.
When they will make the second one, they make it on the second hand, just like the first one here.
Mm.
They make it from the shoulder here
Mm.
to the wrist here. That was when Shango said, it is okay. I can't continue with this anymore. This is painful beyond measures.
Mm. Mm.
It is painful beyond what I can summon courage for. So that was how he stopped at the two marks. So these two marks are called Eyo. They later began to call the two marks Eyo, Eyo marks. Up till today,
Mm.
every descendant of Shango who are crown prince in Oyo, they must have that Eyo mark.
Mm.
one of the signs for knowing them. It was Shango who began it.
Oh,
So yes, when they want to
so
address them, when
so to date, the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ are
yes,
supposed
every Alaafin must have it, and
to.
even not only the Alaafins, the prince, all those who are prince must have it. They must have that mark. The mark is called Eyo. That is why when they want to address princes, when they want to address those princes, they call them Akeyo. 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 We can loosely translate that in English as someone who has the Eyo mark. Someone who has the Eyo mark. So we call them Akeyo.
Mm.
Let's say, for instance, one crown prince, if one crown prince name is Stella, they will call him Akeyo Stella. Akeyo is used as a prefix before the name of every prince in Oyo.
Really?
Let's move further in the story of Shango. I just cited that example to know how dreadful Shango was. Now it's got to a time when uh, Shango began to observe that there are two warlords under him
Mm.
that could be possible threat to him in the future.
Mm.
The first one is Timi. His name is Timi. They call him Timi Agbale Olofaana. Timi Agbale Olofaana. That's what the first one is called.
Mm.
Uh, then the second one is called uh, Bonka Ebiri. Bonka Ebiri is the name of the second one. Bonka is much more powerful than Timi, but Shango has seen both of them as a possible threat to his life in the future. So he decided to orchestrate their death in a manner that nobody will observe that he is the one who killed them.
Mm.
So he sent Timi Agbale, he sent him to Ede. He sent him to Ede. Ede happened to be a border. Ede is in Oyo State up till now. It happened to be about it happened to be a border between two notable towns then. So he sent Timi to Ede and Bonka remain in Oyo. So it's got to a time when I don't want to go into much details about Timi because it's a very long story on its own. So it got to a time when Shango now Timi revoked the order of Shango, and Shango now sent
Mm.
Bonka Ebiri to go and fight Timi in Ede. As at that time, Timi has become the king in Ede. That is why every king in Ede up till today is referred to as Timi. The title of their kingship is Timi. They call them Timi of Ede, Timi Agbale Olofana. That's how they address them. So he sent Bonka. Bonka and Timi were friends before. So he sent Bonka to Ede to go and conquer Timi. When Bonka got to Ede, he fought with Timi, and after fighting with Timi, he later conquered Timi, but Timi did not die. He did not kill Timi, so he brought Timi to Oyo. When Shango saw uh, Bonka's action, he was expecting that Bonka should have killed Timi
Mm.
back in Ede. So he said, okay, that one that you did in Ede did not happen in my own presence. I want both of you to fight in my presence.
Mhm.
Now, Timi has an arrow. He has an arrow that spits fire. And when he uses his arrow goes directly to whoever he wants it to go to. On Bonka's side, Bonka is very fetish. He has a whole lot of charms. So the fight, in order to cut the long story short, the fight began, and they engaged in fight. When they engaged in the fight, Timi used his arrow, but Bonka used his magical power to wave off the arrow. and it couldn't get to him. So thereafter, Bonka used some incantations to force Timi of Ede to sleep. So after saying the incantations, Timi slept and Bonka beheaded Timi of Ede, Timi Agbale, Olofana. He beheaded him immediately. Shango was very happy, but after conquering Timi, he is now left with Bonka. One way or the other, he manipulated the death of Bonka too, because I don't want to go into much details. But he said Bonka should be burnt alive. He should be burnt alive. So when they burnt Bonka alive, I said initially that Bonka is very fetish. Bonka came back to life without having any burn in his body. So when Shango saw this, Shango knew that there is problem.
Yes.
Kutu is very powerful, but he knew then that there is problem.
It's a
Now,
threat.
Bonka now said directly to Shango that I have seen that it was you who manipulated the death of my friend Timi. But I give you just 3 days. I give you 3 days. If you don't leave this throne, I will be the one to kill you. Shango felt threatened, and at the same time, he began to get ready for a possible war. Now, I said initially that he can spit fire from his mouth. He learnt that. He learnt how to spit fire from his mouth in his mother's side, that is in Takwa land. He got to know how to do that in Takwa land, in his mother's land, before he even became a king. So there is a device he has to put in his mouth. He has to put a particular device in his mouth before he can spit the fire. So there was a time, because he was overusing that thing, he was misusing the power. Oya lured Shango and collected that device from him. So I said Oya is the last wife. So he collected the device from him. As at then, when Shango was now preparing for war, he now told Oya, go and bring the device with you. A war is looming. There is about to be a war. When Oya will give this device to Shango, Shango observed that it has melted and Oya's menstrual blood has stained the device. Shango became very sad. He became very angered that he couldn't control himself. He had to take that device and go to a very tall mountain very close to his palace in order to check if that thing is still working. Now, Shango put the device in his mouth and faced his own palace. When he faced his own palace with the expectation that the device will not be working anymore, when he spitted fire and his whole palace was consumed by fire. That was how Shango knew that something terrible had happened to him. Properties, some of his children, some of his slaves, they got burned. And the palace got burnt to the brim, that nothing could be able to, nothing was taken out of the palace. So Shango furiously left the palace because he believed he had done, he had used his own power against himself. So he left the palace and wanted to go and take his own life because he couldn't stand the shame.
Anymore.
So he went to a place called Koso. Koso is still in Oyo State up till today. When he got to that place called Koso, he saw a shea butter tree. A shea butter tree. It is called Igi Ayan in Yoruba. So he saw that tree and he decided to hang himself.
Shango?
He decided to. Shango decided to hang himself there because he couldn't stand the shame. Some accounts said he didn't hang himself, that he transfigured or something. But the most common account is that
It
he
disappeared. They will say it
uh,
disappeared.
oh, no, that one is it sounds like a myth.
A mate,
So
yeah, yeah.
he hanged himself. So when
Mhm.
Shango hanged himself, people began to say that Ọba ti pokùnso, that is, the king has hanged himself. Ọba ti pokùnso. So the followers of Shango
Mm,
began to feel ashamed, that how possible could they stand it to hear that their own king, the person they are following, how
mm,
powerful he was in his lifetime, died by hanging himself.
mm,
So they went there, they took his corpse and they buried him in Koso there. So when they buried him there, they got back to the town and people began to mock them. They began to mock Shango's followers. That,
mm.
look at you, your king, how powerful he was. Do you
Yeah.
know how he hanged himself?
It's like a shameful death. Shameful one.
Exactly. So that was how uh, Shango's followers went back to Tapa land, that is in Shango's mother's town, to go and learn how to conjure thunder and lightning, in order to be able to do it as Shango used to do it back then.
Mhm.
So when they got back to the town, when they hear anyone saying, you don't know how your king died, he hanged himself. He hanged himself means, in Yoruba, it means Ọba yín pokùnso, your king hanged himself.
Oh,
So whenever they hear anyone say that, they will now use that trick they have learned. They will summon the thunder and the person will be struck by the thunder and die immediately. So they were using this form of approach
yeah.
to to like hold their king's reputation,
Yes, the
so that
stigma.
people think, uh
The
so
stigma attached to
it began
the
to happen
shameful
like that.
death. Mm.
Exactly, it began to happen like that. The people now observe that whenever they say that Shango hanged himself, anyone who says that usually die of lightning. They usually die of thunder and lightning.
Mhm.
So when they die of the lightning, there is something that comes down when thunder strikes. It is called
Mm.
meteorite. Meteorite. Yoruba call it Edon Ara.
Mm.
So the meteorite, after the thunder might have striking the person to death, the meteorite be will be fixed in the person's chest. The meteorite will be fixed in the person's chest. So they will have to call those Shango followers to come and remove it after the person's death, because they will tell them that they have to do some appeasement to Shango before they can remove that thing. They will collect palm oil, they will collect ram, they will collect a lot of things from them, and without doing the necessary things, those
Mm.
even after the death of that person, no one will be able to enter that house again. So people began to caution themselves and
Yes.
stopped saying that the king hanged himself. So they used it the other way around. Instead of saying the king has hanged himself, they now began to say that the king did not hang himself. In Yoruba, it means Ọba kò tó. Oba Koso, the king did not hang himself. That is why up till today, when you see people appeasing Shango, they call him Shango, Oloju Orogbo, Elereke Obi. And they will even use that event as an appellation, they will use it as an appellation for him by saying Oba Koso, that is, the king did not hang himself,
Yes.
instead of saying the king hanged
And
himself.
so,
So that was how Shango lived his life and time. Up till now, we still have Shango followers. Shango,
Mm.
yes, Shango festival is still celebrated in Oyo and every part of Yoruba land up to today.
So
Even,
that's
even,
how
hello,
that is why he was deified.
he was deified. So his
Mm.
followers are called the Mogba Mogba. We call them Mogba Mogba. Shango's followers are called Mogba Mogba. They mostly wear red clothes. They put a beaded chain in their neck, on their neck rather. So up till today, I think it is August. You see, the people of Oyo, they will
Mm.
gather together. They will
Mm.
celebrate Shango. So that's how the story of Shango goes.
And the Shango now
Hmm.
is a deity in the Yoruba land
He is a deity in Yoruba land.
to date.
Till date, he is a deity. He is the deity, he is the god of thunder and lightning.
Mm.
That is why when in Yoruba land, when thunder strikes,
Mm.
immediately you will hear people around. That is those who are very vast in Yoruba, that or those who are Shango followers, or those who understand Yoruba to the core. They will say Kábíyèsí o. Kábíyèsí o is a way of greeting the king.
King.
So they believe that but when the thunder strikes in heaven, it is Shango that strikes thunder in heaven. So they will say
Mm.
Kábíyèsí o in order to revere him. Up till today, we still do that.
Ah, so can they use the Shango to curse someone? If, for instance,
Oh, very well,
okay.
very well. In fact, I used to say it.
Mm.
If these are politicians,
Mm.
if they can bring themselves, I know they will never do that. None of them will ever do that because it goes beyond the Bible and Quran that they will just take and they will just lie. So help me God, I will not do
Mm.
this. I will not do this. I will not embezzle your money. I will not do that.
Yeah.
If anyone tries this with Shango,